apologies. The Twitter space just absolutely crapped out. So we will be starting the Into the Interchain 2.0, part 2, whatever you want to call it, here in a couple minutes. Let's see if we can spread this room around. Make sure that the tweet gets out, that the link gets out, and we'll start again. We'll try again. Fisco, I added you. Haas, I will invite you up to speak as well.
Hey guys, morning again.
Part 2. I just started talking on the first one and I got rugged. It was funny. I was like, oh shit, that wasn't my fault. That was my bad. bad juice. It's kind of funny.
If there's one thing that has just gone to shit on Twitter, it's Twitter Spaces, and so I would hope that they get fixed relatively soon.
Yeah, it's been really frustrating because most weeks I try to do 3 to 4 spaces on a minimum. So, I'm pre-scheduling it and putting it into Twitter and all that type of stuff. And there's been like twice over the last like week or so where, for example, I have a space tomorrow with Babylon Chain, and there's a probability when I go to start it up, like what'll happen is it'll start, but then it won't let me mute my mic ever. And it won't let me like play the music at the beginning. And it's just like, so what I just do is I just cancel and do another one. But what's real frustrating is, the community will have it as a reminder and all that type of stuff. And then it's like, you're starting a new one and they don't even know because they don't, because no one has attention span anyways. So it's like, there's a lot going on and it's really frustrating on that side of it. And another thing it does too is like the music part. I like that addition to it, but whenever you start the space and you put the music and then maybe you say, hey guys, like we're going to get started in like 5 minutes or whatever, then you can't put the music back on again. It's like, okay, it just makes no sense. So maybe they'll figure it out. And also like most people, they don't want to have to hold a phone next to their mouth the whole time while they're like doing a Twitter space. They would rather, like myself, like not flexing, but I have a studio set up with a nice like microphone arm and it's like real chill and relaxing. Instead I gotta be like uncomfortable the whole time I'm like doing a Twitter space.
Yeah, I would love for the music to be toggleable in the sense that like you can come on, you say, hey, we're gonna get started in a few minutes, and then you mute yourself and turn it back on. But you're right, it turns off completely, and you don't have the ability to turn it back on. But we are at 11:06, and so I think Fisco, I'll turn it over to you to get us started.
Yeah, thanks, Stoltz. Well, Haas, appreciate you hopping on this morning. I'm excited for our kind of community-focused chat. I know we met a couple months ago when you went full-time crypto, and I figured I'd reach out and just chat. Obviously, I do business development at Shade Protocol, so I love meeting everybody in the space. But it was a great conversation, and then we've been close, or at least as close as you can be, kind of over the virtual sphere since then. But community, this is Cosmos Haas, one of the larger influencers, or whatever you like to call yourself, Haas, in the space. I'd love if we could just kick off, and if you could give a little bit of an overview of what you're up to now and maybe your background of how you got in this space.
Certainly. So first off, I'm honored to even be up here, and like everything that I ever do just like surprises me anymore, because the fact that like I'm doing any of this is always like, wow, I can't believe this. And I met Carter in person. I want to say you as well, but I've met so many people at that secret party down in Austin that it's like really hard to remember. Plus I was drinking, and so that kind of boggles my mind. But it was just nice to meet everyone, like the secret community. To kind of like get my start, I'll kind of go backwards, but like the secret community always resonated with me because it just like embodies like my personality. Like I am an outgoing person, but I also like to be private and just be left alone when I want to be left alone. And in like this space, especially the secret community kind of embodies that personality. Like I joke and say like, oh, my next door neighbor can be like an axe murderer and I wouldn't even know. I'm the typical, like I take care of my house, they take care of their house, I say hello, like if I get their mail, I'll go deliver it off to them and stuff like that. But I don't care what they do. Like whatever they do is whatever they do. I'm not in their business. And it's kind of like what I like about the secret community. It kind of exudes that. But long story short, I really got my crypto journey going when COVID happened. It was the first time in my life where I actually had some free time to just kind of be me and not be so just consumed with work and that, the 9 to 5 grind and then all the commuting and then trying to spend time with the family and just basically not having any time to like do any research. So that happened, unfortunately. Unfortunately and fortunately, obviously, but I just like went down the rabbit hole, no pun intended, started like doing a bunch of research. I've always loved technology. I've been a tech nerd basically my whole entire life. So, I got into it that way. Osmosis launched, and then I started helping out because I was basically a fanboy. I loved the tech, and I was like, this is a good, I call it customer experience. I was like, this is a great customer experience. So I wanted to learn more. I started looking into like who Sonny was and just who everyone was. And then that got me really into Cosmos and then started helping out on Telegram just to help out other people. And then like November of 21, they started up an Osmosis support lab and they asked me to be a part of it. And I was like, yes, absolutely. And at the time I was working from home, so like I could maintain both. And, so that kind of started me off in this space and I just kept doing all of it. And shortly after that, there was a Twitter space. The first time I ever knew Twitter space, like I'm like getting older. I'm kind of like I said before, I'm real private. I really don't like social media. I don't like all the attention. And, but the guys were talking about Cosmos on a Friday night. I was drinking a little bit. I just buzzed in, started talking about Cosmos and some stuff. And there was only like, I don't know, 6 or 7 of us at the time. And that same night, and I'm not going to take credit for it, it was just like the energy or whatever. But like there was over a couple hundred people in that space that same night, and it was everyone just talking about Cosmos and tech, and it basically motivated me. It was like my calling. I was like, all right, I want to start doing this and producing content and like having Twitter spaces and just kind of talk shop about stuff. And that's when I really got my journey going. And then I guess I just kind of leveraged that into just networking with others and in the community, doing outreach, trying to educate. And my mission has always been to help others. But in this space, it was more so to help mitigate the learning curve because I had all those hours upon hours to study this stuff and like do the deep dive. And some people helped me along my initial journey, but a lot of it was just pure, just like reading everything I can consume. So I just wanted to take that knowledge that I learned and pass it along to others, but just mitigate that learning curve because most people don't have the amount of hours that I was fortunate enough to have to like get my grind and my start going. So, like that's kind of what it is now. And like as for like currently, just kind of doing the same thing. It's more a lot like freelance and stuff in Cosmos. And like my goal too is like I understand these teams, they're just building and a lot of them don't have the business background that I have and how to actually run a business. So I kind of take those skills from the traditional world and also apply them with all the teams in Cosmos, try to help them, put the pieces together and, just try to be as helpful as possible. Like I literally want to be doing this the rest of my life. I love every day, every moment of it. I put 12 to 15 hours in and, 5 to 6 days a week at minimum. And, I think at the end of the tunnel, it's all going to lead somewhere, not only financially, but just like it makes me happy, like this space honestly makes me happy, even in the dark moments, like when the bear market's kind of roaring around. And I always appreciate the people that are like tuning in, like yourselves right now, everyone that's actually listening live, that listens to the recordings, they ask questions and keeps me going. Cause sometimes it's like, I feel like, I'm just like tweeting out to outer space sometimes and there's no one reading it. But, I see the people, it's like this community is amazing. The secret community is amazing. The shade community is amazing. Like all of Cosmos for the most part, the communitarian point of it, it just like drives me, man. It excites me, and it's just like what I want to be doing the rest of my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man, that's a super great overview. Appreciate it. I think, yeah, this is just such a special time in the space where we're all, so many people that are here right now are ones that like had to do that degen mode where you're spending all your off time researching something that nobody else cares about, and it's hard to find information, and it's hard to even figure out where to look for information. But I think we're like right in that, maybe you want to call it like Renaissance for the Cosmos type era where things are starting to flip over. There's more influencers. There's more people that are educators. There's more protocols that are focusing on educating community, on easily onboarding people. But that does really kind of speak to this like real kind of community development that's been able to happen. I really think a lot of it has been a part of the bear market, of the Cosmos really kind of getting forged into this super strong community. How do you see the Cosmos community being a space that's different from maybe other DeFi ecosystems, other blockchain ecosystems, where it's been able to create this super strong core community of like people talking to each other, educating one another, and even a place that has platforms for people like yourself?
The first and foremost thing, and this isn't me being a homer, because like I said, I don't just partake in Cosmos. Don't get me wrong. Like, I primarily spend all my time here, but I have made relationships with other people in other ecosystems that are IBC, and a lot of the conversations and things that they speak about aren't really tech related. They're just kind of like miscellaneous random topics that at the end of the day truly don't matter to me or don't mean as much to me. And I think a lot of the people in this community as a whole have a really high understanding of technology. The passion for just the technology alone is just what stands out the most. And then obviously how everything is connected, right? Like all these other ecosystems, they throw out the fancy words of like interoperability and multi-chain and all that type of stuff, but they truly don't know what that really means. Like literally we were developed for our core thesis was this app chain thesis that everything's connected, and like the communities are really all connected. Like I don't know anyone in Cosmos that only owns one token. Like, oh, I'm only gonna own Atom, or I'm only gonna own Osmo. Are there some people that like the OGs of Atom? Maybe they get a little bit chafed at times about other tokens or like Osmo and back and forth. Yeah, you're going to have that's human nature. But at the end of the day, I would say with probably 100% fact that there's no one that owns just one token in Cosmos. There's no like true tribalism, like are there people in other ecosystems that may only own like 100% Solana or 100% ETH? There probably is, but I would say there's none in our ecosystem. And like I said, I hop on calls with developers and teams and people building in this space and just like NFT communities. And on average, like per day, I usually get to speak to at least 2 to 3 teams, like behind the scenes, like on like doing a Google Meet or whatever. And like the thing I find that separates us again is like the tech. Like people truly do like the tech. Some people throw it out there in other ecosystems, like we're here for the tech. But at the end of the day, all they care about is their bags pumping. And I'm not saying that's the wrong approach. Like, I mean, yeah, should everyone probably in here prefers the, I know I do, just from just like an engagement standpoint and just like the vibes. It's obviously better when the energy's there and like the market is doing a little bit better. Like last weekend was a prime example. This last weekend we just had, it was like the first weekend in forever where like the market was actually like green and pretty energetic, and it feels better. Like people are more engaged. So it's like, well, do I prefer that? Yeah, of course I do. But at the end of the day, like I truly think that most people in our ecosystem, which is a gigantic it's just evolving, it's grown and grown, really does care about like how the tech actually works, and they believe that it is the future, and no one else is building out all this infrastructure for Web3 to really happen. So that's kind of like what my core thesis is, of like trying to take an overlook of like the communities that aren't IBC enabled.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's something that the bear market has definitely caused, of like this tech focus. Because I think, in my opinion, at least, because everyone that's here at this point is here because they're passionate about whatever solution they're most closely tied to, whether it's privacy or interoperability or the hub mentality or whatever it is, or just Cosmos in general. So there is definitely in this space, particularly, a lot of excitement and a lot of focus on developing the technology. We're still in the early stage of the entire ecosystem where there's a super strong focus on that, which I've really appreciated, and I think kind of, I agree, has lended towards this community sentiment, especially with this baseline of interoperability. In your view, where do you see the Cosmos in like 6 years, something like that, like way down the future? How do you see this continuing to develop with this kind of community basis? Do you see this moving forward and increasing and becoming really this true ecosystem that's like this IBC centric, everybody collaborating together? Or do you think it'll kind of fracture and it'll downward trend from here?
That's a really good question, actually. I to be honest with you, I really never thought in depth about that particular question, but that is a good question. I guess kind of freeballing it. I would say that over time, you probably will get more of a. I don't want to say tribalism, but you will have people that are like for example, the people that are here right now. Maybe we get this, it's kind of human nature where we're like, we were here first, we saw it before you saw it. So like, you'll have your chains that you really are like, look, these chains are these are the OGs, because I do believe in 6 years from now that most, if not all, blockchains will be IBC enabled. I just don't see a reality that it won't. I know initially there may not be as much incentive to do it, for the simple structure of just human nature, where it's like, hey, like say I'm a venture capitalist or whatever, and I'm like, here's $25 million to whatever project, and you have your own chain or whatever. I don't want anyone else to like maybe siphon off some of that worth. So it's like, let's build this monolithic structure for anyone out there. It's just like building, like, say, a skyscraper, and the skyscraper is not connected to anything. It's like, well, we're the place to be. We want you to come here. This is the best real estate. Come here, and that's it. Like, don't go anywhere else. Like a all inclusive resort, right? Like, we don't want to be connected to anything. So like, I think over time though, as like as more and more people get into crypto, whether that's through like music, gaming, whatever sort of industry, because I really believe in crypto that offers a solution to anything. So like, I believe that, obviously we're still early, and I also believe, I always ask myself, is there going to be more people tomorrow, next year at the same exact time, or less in this space? And I always say more. So that's why my thesis is always like, we're super early. But to kind of like narrow that question down, I do believe over time that people will still kind of have like this, like, I guess, narrow view of like, hey, these are the chains that I'm involved with, and I don't care that there's 500 chains connected to IBC. I'm only liking these ones, and like, look at every place as like a micro economy or whatever. Like, maybe you don't want to partake in this other economy, but it still offers you like an easy way to go over there and do things that maybe that particular chain offers that another one doesn't. So I don't know if that really answers your question or not. I just believe in it in the long run, like that all the chains will IBC enabled, because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I could say, like, reasons why, like, just from a standpoint of just common sense, right? It's like, right now, these chains that aren't IBC enabled, it would be like you going into like a store, or like let's just use like a coffee shop, and it offers Wi-Fi, but it's like, hey, well, if you have an iPhone, you're good, and if you have an Android, you're out of luck. Like, that's not a reality that anyone is going to live in, and that's kind of the way like blockchains are constructed right now. Except for like when you are an IDC, it's like you're kind of free to go, like free to just send stuff over. So I guess that's kind of my purview of it.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and it's obviously a hard question to answer at this stage in the game. It's such a still early ecosystem, and there's so much development that we have moving forward. But I think as we build out this like infrastructure in general across the entire ecosystem, it'll kind of be like a both and, where we continue as the Cosmos ecosystem to become this kind of like monolithic standalone thing, but also build out healthier and healthier connections to in between the chains in our ecosystem and connections to outside ecosystems. What do you think in your view? So this is, I know you mentioned right at the beginning of that statement, or the last talking that you did, that you are loosely involved with some other ecosystems. What do you say on the community side, on the education side, is the biggest advantage that Cosmos has over other ones? And secondarily to that, and probably more interesting, what do you think the most work, or the area that the most work has to be done for Cosmos to compete with some of these other large ecosystems is?
So we'll start off with what I think needs to substantially improve. And the fragmentation of data and marketing is really poor, in my opinion, in Cosmos. It's very, very poor. Needs to improve. I get it, because like, think about a project or a chain as like an entity, and it's almost like there needs to be this collaborative effort for each chain to kind of pitch in, like a GoFundMe page, so to speak. We're like, all right, we're going to allocate, whatever. Let's just say like $5,000, which is like nothing compared to like what a lot of these chains market caps are. But we'll just use like 5K as an example. We're all going to pitch in 5K, put it in this like DAO. And then this DAO is basically, like I don't want to show myself, but like myself and a bunch of other people that literally just love this ecosystem, and will do whatever it takes to like kind of help grow eyes on it and like educate people. Because like I can't even tell you, like for example, I was on a call yesterday with this guy, nice individual. He is really involved in the Solana ecosystem, and he's like, hey, we're thinking about building this project. It was an NFT community. We're thinking about building this project that's cross chain, and we really like what Cosmos is and all this stuff. And then I'm like getting this discussion with him, and he was like, he was asking me about Atom, and he was like, every time I look, it's the same price. It's been the same price for years. I've owned it for like since 18, but yet he had his tokens staked on Coinbase. And I'm like, bro, I was telling him about airdrops and all this other stuff. I was like, you're not qualifying for any of that. I was like, honestly, he told me how many atoms he stakes, and it was quite a few. And I'm like, I said, man, you've probably thrown away $20,000-$30,000 of like airdrops that you probably would have earned since then. And then I said, not only that, like if you would have took those airdrops and like staked them and compound them, it probably was even more. And just like that standpoint alone, I think the education needs to improve. Like as many spaces as I can hop on, and other individuals that are doing, I think, a really fantastic job on it. It's tough, right? Like I know when I feel like the only way you find Cosmos, right, is if you really like technology and you keep asking yourself questions about like actually how the tech works, then you'll find Cosmos. But like if not, you're really not going to find it, right? Like if you go on YouTube and you're like, hey, let's just type in crypto, I guarantee you Cosmos doesn't come up. It's going to be like, like as good as like I like Crypto Ceto and Liam and other guys that like represent, and Joe and Tank and all the people. I'm not a big YouTuber, so I don't really know exactly who's all doing their thing, but I know those individuals kind of devote their time and effort in YouTube. That algorithm, they're at the bottom. Like people aren't finding them. That's just the reality. Even like Crypto Ceto. He probably comes up if you like scroll down probably after 10 videos or whatever, after all the Bitcoin and Ethereum shillings and stuff like that. But, so it's really tough, like, because people aren't going to find it. But I also think this space, right, we need to do a better effort in not fighting over the same users already. Like, let's get the new users. Let's get the other billions of individuals that have no clue about crypto. Let's get them over here in a way, through education, but also just products, like things that people like to do every day and use, but they'll come into crypto and technically not even know they're using it. I think our technology can offer that solution to kind of like throw this in there. My background, I'm an accountant. I've dealt with all kind of different wealths, whether it's low, middle, high, extremely high income. And the common denominator through like most humans is like they don't care about, like, let's just face it, like I like DeFi stuff and finances. That's my background. I've been doing that my life. It's a very important skill, but most normal human beings can care less about finance and there's a perpetual protocol being built and I can get order books and I could take out that's the reality. Humans will never care about that, but they like music, they like art, they like gaming. People always game. Everyone on this call has gamed at some point in their life. That's pretty much a guarantee. We need to get that into Cosmos, and then that kind of like will flow throughout the whole ecosystem, because people do get curious. They're like, hey, what's this other thing over here? And then you can just like build off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's totally accurate. Even I'm interested to see kind of the adoption pipeline or the adoption engine that comes through games in the future. Like there's a team that's building a game that we're talking with, and the conversation is actually around having Silk be the currency for the game. So you go through your own gold, your own resources, and you can sell that back for Silk because it's all denominated in a value based on Silk. So there's like all of a sudden these interesting things where someone's getting into crypto accidentally because they liked this video game that was built in the Cosmos and uses a stable coin. and all of a sudden you're integrating people into these larger DeFi ecosystems kind of second-handedly. So I'm curious to see in the future kind of how that pipeline gets built out, because I really do think on the consumer side of things, those are really strong adoption methods that will get people to use things that they wouldn't have sought out initially, maybe. But all of a sudden they're integrated in an ecosystem and they're discovering it secondhand.
Yeah, I know you're going to get another question in here, but like to like kind of add more to that. So like full disclosure, I'm about to be 37. I still game when I get a chance, but you know how much money I've spent on games like over my lifetime, and like spent hours like grinding out some sort of XP to get some sort of. I'm a big guy into shooting games. I love shooting games. Always love shooting games. Like I just basically all I play is shooting games. Um, and like we'll just use Fortnite for example. I mean, these kids have already been kind of indoctrinated to crypto, really, in theory, because V-Bucks was, I don't know, it might have been the first game ever to like actually have a currency in game, so to speak. But you couldn't do anything with it. Like the people that would, have 1,000 different skins. Like think about it, it's a free game, right? Like you never need to spend $1 on that game to play the game. You don't get any sort of competitive advantage, but you know how many billions and billions of dollars they brought in because they always have skins and like different things, emotes and all this other stuff that like drives people to like participate and buy it because they want to stand out, they want to be unique, they want to have some sort of identity. But the thing is, at the end of the day, like imagine if you could sell any of that stuff, or like like Fortnite, for example, all the games do it, but like it's a holiday and they have some sort of special edition out. Hey, if you're on playing at this time, you can earn blah blah blah. And like some people can't take, they aren't able to participate, but they still want that. Like they would buy that. Like, hey, yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy that weapon off of you for $10. And now, like, there's literally an economy that can thrive in that fashion right there, where you can buy in-game collectibles and skins, and then you can have NFTs and sell NFTs that evolve over time, where it's like you start off with this skin, like this basic user, and over time like you get additions to your skin, and then like you can literally sell parts, and there's so much that can go on. And I really firmly believe that once that Pandora's box is opened up, that's going to bring over that'll bring over 1 billion people just like that. Especially because all it will take is like one really good game, like the next Fortnite, to be in crypto, right? Like that's all it takes. And then now you have this just ever growing ecosystem, and then everything's a competition, because then the next game is going to be like, hey, we've seen that was very successful, we want to partake, can this is our game, like, how do we get this on your blockchain, or how do we get to be able to trade things on chain or whatever, like that's going to be it. And then like music, and how many wonderful musicians are out there and artists that like people don't really know about, but they have like a low key um, you know community, and now they can actually partake in an economy where they're not getting burnt with so many fees and things like that. Like that'll bring over a huge amount of people too. And I think like our technology offers that, because of like the SDK. Like people can literally have their own app chain. They can, pretty soon they're going to be able to have their own consumer chain, and then they're all that information, all that data and eyes and network effect is there for the taking. So I think we're positioning ourselves to be an integral part of that. And like the way I always view Cosmos is not as like a competition. And like I know a lot of people, I ask this when I talk to people outside of Cosmos. I ask them sometimes, I say, hey, like what's the first thing you think of when you think of the word Cosmos? And a lot of them that are newbies will say Atom. And I personally never, ever think like that. I just think of like what the definition is, really how we're all connected and harmonious and stuff like that.
Yeah, man, that's totally like, it's just such a crazy thing to think about. Like a couple years from now, there's all of these wild secondary markets that open up around. I mean, obviously you got everything physical that already has these exact same secondary markets, but you put things on chain and you give things unique IDs, and then all of a sudden you can trade them between people, and they have actual value that are denominated by a currency that you can get back in a fiat currency and spend in real life. And there's like tertiary markets that are opening up for all sorts of levels, whether it's gaming or new DeFi things or NFTs or music, that allows small businesses or small artists to thrive. And go direct to consumer for things. It's I'm super excited about that whole side of things, and it's almost like pulling it back several hundred years to a trading and bartering system with all of this new stuff that's on chain, and it's just peer to peer. It's just trading, and it's really interesting market. But I think Cosmos is super super well positioned, and already you see some of these things cropping up. So I'm excited to see where it's at in a couple of years.
Yeah, and then like also with like Silk, you want to have the anonymity, like to be able to
Mm-hmm.
like myself, right? I wouldn't want to buy like your all your skins and then like be docs where you're like, hey, let's see
Yeah.
what Cosmos Host has been doing forever, and then you can like that creates an environment. Because face it, I still game, and like one of the games that I play is Modern Warfare 2. It's a very fantastic game, but
Mm-hmm.
man, the amount of hatred and toxicity that like is in that game is it's insurmountable, man. It's like you play a game, like my wife will play, right? We both do. We'll be on a team, and like she just gets so much hate from people because she's doing pretty good. Like our KD's really good, and don't get me wrong, she camps a little bit. Like she plays smart. She plays very, very strategic. And people will just like at the end of the match, they're just so aggressive. It's like, bro, like it's just a game. Like, calm down, And and like, imagine if we were able to like participate, and they're like, hey, Cosmos Haas bought this, and I don't like that person, so let me just go bother him, Like, but that's why Silk
Mm-hmm.
would position themselves because it's anonymous. It's like you can't find out who I am. It's like leave me alone.
Exactly. Yeah. Silk, Shade, Stash, another the NFT application built on Secret. All of these things with privacy and trading and markets are, in our opinion, at least, super super integral to have it make sense for the individual. I mean, it's there's say you become a large influencer in the space like yourself, or maybe you're a video game influencer and streaming all of your games, and you're not doxxed, and then there's no privacy. All of a sudden it's super easy to watch everyone's activity just on chain and all of these other ecosystems and chains. So to have that privacy integration is also huge. At the in the middle of your kind of last run of talking, you mentioned that a lot of your buddies or people that you have that you're chatting with about Cosmos, there's still this like Atom centric view for a lot of people. And I think for me, that really brings it back to the reason that we're doing this podcast and the importance of education in the space. Give me your view on your role as an educator, but also your view on the larger Cosmos kind of educational system to say, and what your view of it now is, and what you think needs to happen for it to really be a healthy ecosystem that brings people in functionally and easily.
It's like a little bit convoluted at times, because to like kind of tidbit to the Adam centric thing. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love Adam to like over like I wake up next year and it's $1,000 a token. Like, who wouldn't, right? But I think it's at times it gets a little unhealthy because like people are so conditioned in other ecosystems that you need one particular token to partake in like all the activity within that ecosystem. And Cosmos is completely opposite, and don't get me wrong, like it might upset people that like love Adam, but I think it's almost like a market. Not. I don't want to say it's on purpose because I'm not trying to say that, but by default, it's almost like a marketing deploy for Adam because it's like people that are new are going to be like, oh, I keep hearing about I keep hearing about this Cosmos. It's like everyone keeps talking about it, and then they'll just buy Adam because they're like, I don't have the time to like look into it, but I'm just going to buy Adam. And I don't know how much value that Adam has just from that pure like concept. Is like a lot of people think like, hey, I've been hearing about this and that, and they'll just buy Adam. So like by default, Adam has like captured value just probably literally from that standpoint. Because I mean, if you think about this, and I say it sometimes to people. And I've had conversations with individuals in person at these some of these crypto events, and they'll come up to me and they'll be like, "What is the use case of Adam?" And I'm honest with them. I tell them like at right now, technically nothing. You don't need it for anything. You literally don't need it for anything. Like I honestly, and this is coming off as like an Osmo lover or something, but like that, in my opinion, right now in Cosmos, if you want to like partake and like do a bunch of random things and kind of like dive into the ecosystem, do things like Osmo really is like the only token you really need. Now, if you're like, I need privacy, I want to go check out Secret, you want Secret, but like you probably need Osmo to get there. And I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, you can go add them to Secret and all this, but like overall, like the only token right now in this ecosystem that you like need is Osmo, just because it's where everyone goes. It's like the financial hub. Like everyone goes there to, like, we were talking about barter. It's like the place you go barter, so to speak. Um, so like really right now, in my opinion, like Osmo has more use case, right? I'm not saying like Atom's worthless, right? But at the moment, like you really don't need it. In my personal experience of like doing things every single day in Cosmos, the only thing I do with Atom is compound it. I don't do anything else. Like even when I like offboard onto, like, I don't use Atom. Like before, you had to do that. It was like the way to like get in and out of like the main currency. But like there's other tokens that you can use, and Osmo's everywhere now. So it's like you can just use Osmo, and there's other tokens, and then there's USDC, and like there's ways like to navigate on and off of Cosmos. Now I always say it wrong. I think they say Kato or Kato, whatever. But you can onboard right into Cosmos directly that way. So it's like you don't even need Atom. So like that needs to change that narrative. And I think like once Atom like does some stuff, interchange security and has consumer chains, then maybe that just adds value to all of us in general. Like that's a part of it. So then people will start to come over and be like, man, like you could stake Atom and you can earn this token and that token. So that would probably be a good thing too, and actually having a use case for Atom, because like right now it's just like there is no use case. I'm not gonna. There's none, and if it upsets people, I'm sorry it upsets you, but in my opinion, there's no use case for it right now. So that's kind of like my take on it, and then like again with the education, it's tough because it's like a lot of these chains are really funded and they push it, probably more than they need to, and it just needs to be a better collaborative effort of taking care of the people that spend endless hours. Because I know, the only reason I got to where I got is because I was a little bit financially okay to like treat this as like a hobby for so long. Like I put in so many hours like for free, and as noble as that is, and I wish I would never have to like pay bills and things like that, but people do have families, and like life is really expensive, especially in certain particular parts of the world. Like America is very expensive compared to other places. So, and then there's places in America, like it's really, really expensive. So it's tough, you still have to be an adult and pay all your bills. So it's like it's a tough gig really to like really devote 12 to 15 hours a day and like make this your full-time space, and especially when the market's not really doing good. So it's tough. It's really, really tough. So I don't know if that really answers that question, but I tried.
No, that's a good overview, and I think it's not an easy issue to solve. And I think for sure one of the steps at the beginning is really pushing on figuring out how we develop the narrative of like this kind of multi-node of chains everywhere that all do the same thing, that all have value in and of themselves, that don't need to be centralized by like one token. It's a different than on any of the other competitors or any of the other ecosystems. And I totally remember finding out about Cosmos, hopping in, buying some Atom because I figured it was the Cosmos gas token, and then realizing, oh, I can use each one of these chains individually, but they all work across all of the other ones. And that was super surprising because I didn't figure that out for a couple weeks of just playing around until I realized how IBC works. But we're getting more and more developed on the education side, and it's becoming easier and easier. And there's even popping up good tools like Map of Zones is super helpful for kind of visualizing the connectivity through IBC in the Cosmos. So I'm excited to see these new, like, there's data aggregators that are popping up and new teams that are building maps and visualizations and stuff for the Cosmos. So I think all of those will help a ton. I don't know if Dalton, if you've got any questions for Haas here, but if not, we're at 15 minutes, so we can turn it over to AMA if you don't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a little bit of a shameless shill here, but to what you said, Haas, about Atom not particularly having a lot of utility. I mean, I think there is some in the regards of like it's an introductory token, right? It brings people into the ecosystem and then allows them to kind of exist and then learn about other applications, other blockchains, other projects going on. But I guess that's why I'm stoked about what we're doing with Shade, because not only have we built kind of everything that a user would need, we've also hooked it up to IBC, right? Like we launched the bridge late December that's IBC connected, and so you can come straight from like once everything is live, you'll be able to buy Atom on a centralized exchange, come straight to the Shade Protocol website, and immediately have access to private DeFi lending, swaps, derivatives, all sorts of things, right? And so I guess to your point, you said right now like Osmosis is currently the hub for everything, the financial hub. I'm hoping and I'm really excited that Shade's going to be the private financial hub, and it'll give people that ability to use Atom and have it and have a utility for it, but be able to come straight into an application that you, like you said, they can use, they can have a use case for. And then obviously with Secret Network as well, and the privacy aspect, like that opens up the door for everything, to music, to NFTs, to all sorts of on-chain companies and businesses that you would need privacy for in the real world anyway, so you can't particularly do it on a public blockchain. And so when you add the privacy aspect, it helps a lot. So I'll stop on the shameless shill part, but I think my last question for you is, you mentioned that Cosmos is extremely tech focused, right? And that's a good thing. But sometimes it leads to us not particularly paying attention to the user in regards to, like you said, the normal everyday user could give a damn about a perpetual swap. But the people that care about the perpetual swaps are the ones with the big money. So how do you think we should balance caring about the normal user versus caring about the people that are going to bring, like, I guess the massive TVL? Not saying that everyday users don't bring TVL, but normally whales kind of skew that distribution a little bit. So I guess I'm curious as to like where your line is on where you want to prioritize.
So yeah, I honestly, my content, I try to like balance it. It's a very tough balance, and I think initially I did a better job than I'm doing now. I think one of the reasons why my community and like why I kind of grew a little bit of a following is like I used to, pre-football season, I would do the Cosmos potlucks on Sundays, and I'd have a couple teams, and it was very tech heavy. But I try to pride myself on doing a pretty good job of kind of translating that into like just a normal common Joe talk, and for so anyone can understand it. So like, I'm a big component of DAOs. So, we can have two particular DAOs. It could be, one's a community outreach DAO that's just like kind of like it captures all the chains together, and maybe the chains that really want to like participate and help fund it, they kind of pitch in. And then you have like a more of a professional go-getter DAO that like they're like, hey, like Haas, we want you to be a spokesman to it, and we want you to go to all these events, and you're basically just business developing and telling these people that have a lot of money, angel money and whatever kind of money they have, like, look, you can get in here. Like, for example, you can leverage Secret's technology, and you can have DAOs. And what you can do is, because like you were saying earlier about privacy, one of my main qualms with like blockchain is the people that do have money and have a bunch of money under management, it's a competition. They need people to be under their like umbrella. And the way they do that is, having better yields and better returns for people. And people that have a lot of money, they just want to be like, here, take my money, and I want, X amount of percent. So let's get it going. And like blockchain would offer that if there's a privacy by default option, which obviously Secret has. Because think about like if you're a hedge fund, at the end of the quarter, you have to release your results to your your stakeholders to say like, look, this is what we invested in. We made blah, blah, blah percent. This is what we did. But you wouldn't want it just to be every transaction's on chain. Like, hey, this management portfolio, this portfolio management invested in X, Y, and Z. And then you could just have anyone, including myself, just go, you know what? I'm just going to copy and paste their transactions. And then it's probably going to lead me somewhere. So like that offers it. So I think like DAOs are going to be integral. Like it's going to be a very big part of the future. And that's one of the reasons, like, I really am long term on Juno, because of how all the tooling that they build out for the ease of just creating DAOs. And DAOs will be the thing in the future. So, like, I guess my answer to that question would be DAOs. And just as everyone can create a DAO, and you just need funding, obviously. And I think this space, especially our eco, really does. Like I said, that's the biggest issue I have with this ecosystem. Is like, as much as it's almost like this mantra of like us versus them, and we don't want VC money. I'm not saying all VC money is bad, but at the end of the day, you need funding. Like, you have to spend money to make money, right? Like, why does Google, Apple, and Pepsi and Coca-Cola and all these entities that everyone knows, like every single person on planet Earth knows about Pepsi and Coca-Cola, it doesn't matter, but they still have commercials because it works. Like, marketing works, so it's just that's my thing.
Absolutely. Let us know if you end up forming this Cosmos Education or Cosmos Business Development DAO. We'd be happy to support, but I'm excited again to see, as we continue to grow as an ecosystem, these types of things, of these infrastructure and marketing and all of these groups will start to kind of form and become more solid things, where right now they've been a little bit more, they're building and they're there, but not quite as organized. And I think that's a big thing that's coming in the Cosmos, is a lot more organization, a lot more professionalism. So I'm excited to get to that point. At this point,
I'm sorry. I want to just, before I forget,
Yeah.
to add to that, right? Like, because you've been seeing all these huge layoffs in like the web and like the tech industry, like huge layoffs. And like, let's use like Agoric, for example. It's JavaScript, right? Like, most developers know JavaScript. That's the most utilized language. Like, I don't know what they're doing. This isn't anything negative against Agoric, but they should be out there just poaching people, right? Like, hey, yeah, and most people that are building that lost their job, they're going to have this negative attitude towards corporate America anyways. It's like, get over here and build some cool stuff and make a difference. And like, that's the thing. Like, just get talent over here. Talent will work. But God, I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just thinking about that.
No, that's totally fine. And that's absolutely like a very salient point there, of a lot of effort could be put towards getting talent, getting money, getting institutions into the Cosmos ecosystem. And even though the markets are down right now and it's maybe not the best time, there's still so many people and organizations, institutions that are up and ready to go, waiting for these types of solutions to essentially present themselves to them. The amount of conversations I've had, even just like on the privacy note at conferences, of talking with someone and they'll bring up privacy and I'm like, oh, have I got a solution for you? Like, there's all these industries that are waiting for blockchain to come knocking at their door and just present them with the right solution, and they'll use it. And there's a lot that we can do just by going out there and talking with people. I totally agree. On the community focused side, for everyone listening here, we're going to turn it over in the last couple minutes to an AMA with Haas. If you've got any questions, feel free to raise your hand, request to speak, or put something in the comments and we'll bring you up, or we'll read your comment. But any questions again for Haas, we can go here. Haas, while we're waiting, any final statements from yourself?
Yeah, man, I'm just honored to just talk shop. I love every second of this, man. Like, I truly do. I find it hard in real life to be at any event. I don't care what it is. I'm a huge Steeler fan. I go to a lot of games, and like, I'll run into people that I haven't seen in years, and I'll be talking to them, and they'll be like, "What are you up to?" And it just automatically just goes into like this passionate, long diatribe of like, just everything crypto. And, I'm like, and like what you guys are doing and like Secret, it definitely is like my personality. For example, I don't even tell any of the people that I grew up with, my family, anyone really, that I'm Cosmos Haas. Like, I had a decent, baseball career, did pretty well with my life. I met a lot of cool people, traveled the world, did a lot of cool things. And I kind of like look at this space as just like my, a part of me. And I don't want to be like, hey, I'm Cosmos Haas and follow me. Like, people that I know that aren't really interested, like, they'll ask me like, what are you up to? I'll tell them about crypto. Like, yeah, I'm involved in crypto and this is, I invest in it and I like study it and things like that. I do podcasts and stuff like that, but I don't really tell anyone. It's because it's just like, whatever, like I just want to be kind of left alone when it comes to that. I don't want people like, oh yeah, like he's doing this and all this type of stuff. So I think what's amazing about crypto is you can find a place, and it doesn't matter where you're from or how many followers you have or like what you've done or haven't done in your life. Like you can do something in this space and be a part of it. It's like I invested in different techs like growing up. Like how interested or like how involved did I feel when I bought a share of Amazon? Like none, right? Like, and I used to use Amazon when it was just a bookstore, so I was cool to like see that development. But imagine if it was like open, right? And like back when it was like nothing and I was able to like buy Amazon or buy like Apple when like Steve Jobs was like building in his garage. Like you had to be an accredited investor. Now it's like it doesn't matter. You can invest in all this. And really all crypto is tech and it's all startups. Even Ethereum's still technically a startup right now. So like you can still invest in all this stuff. So it gives you opportunities. Like, yeah, well, some of it fell, possibly, but like at least you can try. Like you can get in the game early, so it's like it's an opportunity for all of us to cement our place and try something, instead of just like sitting back and being scared about stuff. Like I think the space is like generally a younger space, like I feel like an old man. All the conversations, I'm about to be 37. I feel like an old man, and I'm really truly not, like, but I am in this space. And even at 37, like you can take risk, like calculated risk, and if it doesn't work, it's like whatever. Like it's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to like just go all in on crypto, but it also, like from my experience, you have to take calculated risk unless you're just lucky and like your parents are, have a bunch of money and they're just going to give it to you. But most people don't have that luxury. So this space kind of can give you a chance at financial freedom someday. So that's all I wish for everyone in this space is like just freedom. Like it's just be able to kind of do whatever they want to do and not have to be like this 75-year-old guy that has to like work just to like put food on the table, like who wants that? I mean, I'm okay with that. That's what my conclusion at the end of the day with this was like, hey, if crypto goes to zero, it would obviously be terrible, but I'll be okay being that guy that's like 75 that has to like work a 10-hour day to eat. I'll do it. I don't want to, but I'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the bulk of what you're talking about there, that's one of my favorite things about this space for sure. Like without a doubt, I've been on calls or like I've got friends in the space that are used to be welders or used to work at a burger joint, and I've also got friends in the space that used to be VP of sales at fintech companies. And just the disparity of like what people did in their quote unquote pre Web3, pre crypto lives to now those same people are sitting across the table from each other, sitting on a Google Meet, making deals about that have influence on the cutting edge technology that is just at the forefront of fintech and just blockchain technology in general. Super cool, and it's such a awesome equalizer in the space that kind of anyone can be successful, can get a handle, can get in early. All of those things on the space. Red Eye, I see you're up here as a speaker. I'll have you unmute and present your question here, and then we'll just have this be the last one for the space.
How's it going, guys? Appreciate you letting me come up here and ask my question. Glad to be joining a space with Cosmos Haas again. It's been a while. I miss those Sunday Twitter spaces and joining those all the time. I'm curious. I know you're. This is a question for you, Haas. I know you're a bit more focused on marketing right now, but considering your business accounting background, do you see any positive changes to sustainable business models for projects in the Cosmos, or at least significant progress towards achieving that? Shade Protocol has its own approach towards, creating a sustainable business model with their interconnected system of applications, all using, a single token to drive all that revenue to. I'm curious what you've seen throughout your exposure with the rest of the Cosmos.
Absolutely. The fantastic question. And thank you for that. Yeah, I think once the football season ends, which is, it's about to be over pretty soon, I think I'm going to get back to the Sunday grind because I do miss them. I think it gave an outlet for for everyone to get together because, you know, most people work Monday through Friday and then they just don't have time over the weekends, or that's the only time they have is over the weekends. And it's like, I'm working Monday through Friday, and it's like, I kind of want to give some time to my wifey and stuff like that. But thank you for that. As for like what I've seen, I think the teams are getting there with like the development side of things, and really my purview of that is that more people are putting their time in, community members, like people in this conversation listening right now. Like if you really want to be a part of it, you can be a part of it. You know, like we see people that are around, and what that does is that alleviates a lot of stress on these teams to like do what they need to do. Like they don't have the time to do like the social media and outreach. And I think there's been a lot of development, whether the team started off with just a few people. The team has technically grown because I think the communitarian point of Cosmos has kind of grown on it. And that allows them to have like a foundation, and then, you know, they can worry about all like the X's and O's behind the scenes, and then kind of delegate work that, you know, let's face it, like they just don't have the time to do it, whether that's like checking the discords, the telegrams, the posting, creating like artwork and content. They're I think it's getting a lot better. You know, when I first started, it was just like a fire. It was just like a fire, so to speak. Like no one was really that organized. And I think, you know, it's getting better. It's still some teams, especially newer teams, are very unorganized and they don't have any business acumen. It's a fact. Like they're just, you know, they're sitting in front of a computer all day, and they're probably younger. So like they don't have the experience of like, let's face it, I'm an old man in the space. I have kind of the experience, and there's a lot of people. I find a lot of people that are kind of helping do a lot of the putting the pieces together, like the business development, are roughly mid 20s or later on average. So, you know, they do have a little bit of experience. So to answer your question, it is improving for sure. It still needs to keep working. It's a work in progress. But again, I think like DAOs can be a solution to all that type of stuff. Like every blockchain should just have like DAOs. Like, hey, you know, you want to be a part of it? Let's start up this DAO. It's going to be specifically for this only, just marketing or just, you know, whatever. You just have DAOs for everything.
Yeah, I do agree with you that an engaged community is super critical for sustainable business models, especially in the blockchain space, and fostering that is incredibly paramount. Regardless of whether or not that community is kind of organized around a DAO or a Discord or something else, projects still need to find ways to engage with their community and you know, kind of give them the agency to kind of spread the word about these projects that they're passionate about. So I'm interested to see how other projects, you know, kind of foster that engagement and community for their own projects. I appreciate your answers.
Yeah, but question for you: were you down? Did I meet you in Texas?
I think we just missed each other, to be honest.
Okay.
But Texas was a fun time this past summer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think some of the models that teams are developing are pretty good and unique with like kind of it doesn't even have to necessarily be like financially motivated, but like have a community that has like objectives and goals to like partake in, because like everyone likes to do things for some sort of incentive. I mean, that's just like kind of human nature, whether that's like some sort of financial incentive or like, hey, you can earn, you know, whatever, like NFTs or whatever. It's just something to like strive towards. You know, I think I do see the teams that seem to be a little bit more successful kind of grow a nice following, have a nice Twitter following, and things of that nature. Do a really fantastic job, like the secret agents, and like Say's doing pretty good with the sailors, and you know, like there's other teams that are doing that kind of like, it gives the community more to like strive forward. And I think that, like you were saying earlier about the outreach, like that's obviously paramount, to have some sort of like structure in place. And also like we all want to have fun, right? Like that's what life's about, is having fun. So like for them to be able to partake in some sort of engagement that's fun. So that's one thing that I think all the chains need to kind of embody in crypto, especially in Cosmos.
100%, 100%. Well, Red, thank you for your question there. We are just over time now, so I think we'll wrap this one up. Haas, really appreciate you hopping on here and having a conversation with our community. It's always great to chat. And again, looking forward to it. I think we're going to be meeting in East Denver, so I'm looking forward to meeting up in person. But outside of that, again, appreciate you hopping on. Follow at Cosmos Haas if you don't already, for everyone listen. And then, of course, follow at Shade Protocol if you're not yet. But that will wrap up this podcast.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm always here to help anyone out there. It's what I want to do for the rest of my life. So thank you for the platform to just kind of vent. It feels good. It's therapeutic to just talk about crypto and my journey. I hope if someone got something out of it. And cheers, everyone. Have a great day today. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And make sure to jump into the Shade Discord. We will be hosting weekly community hours from now to the next hour. So if you want to, a couple of us will be in there, community members as well. So feel free to jump in. But Haas, appreciate you jumping on. Fisco, as always, thank you. And we will see you next week.